sticking with the tradition, with the earnings season tradition, let's begin by taking a look at Alcoa. But it is up against some long-established players in the market like WhatsApp, WeChat, and Facebook Messenger. So the real question is, can it sustain this momentum? That the economies of China and the US are so interconnected and interlinked that relations must improve. And that creates a problem for farmers who now find themselves with a surplus of bigger birds. It's the largest SPAC merger on record, topping a market that reached a fever pitch during the COVID-19 pandemic. New York City, home to the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, where Grab is slated to list. It's a big draw for companies looking to access the deepest pool of capital in the world. And SPAC mergers can get them there faster and without the need to jump through hoops with an IPO. Here on Wall Street, which for decades has been the equivalent of a giant man cave of money makers. And even though more women are now disrupting the field of high finance and taking the proverbial bull by the horns, they're not exactly crushing it just yet. There was another lifeline. For months, many people stayed mostly indoors, unable to head to the bookstores or linger for long, browsing through history books or reading novels over cups of coffee at in-store cafes. But they still needed books as a means of escape without actually leaving their couches. So what did they do? They went online. The latest push to tighten rules for Chinese companies was brought on by two key catalysts. The multi-billion-dollar fraud scandal by NASDAQ-listed Chinese company Luckin Coffee in the spring that roiled capital markets, and deepening tensions between Washington and Beijing over a wide range of issues, including trade, security, and the handling of the coronavirus pandemic. U.S. demand for bicycles and parts drove record sales in March that extended into April when it hit $1 billion, according to data from NPD Group. June sales grew 50% compared to last summer. But supply has not kept up with demand, and some parts of the country are reporting no more bikes for sale.
Liling Tan joins us now live from New York with more data on this. Liling, United CEO said policies would change following the forceful removal of Dr. Dow from one of their planes in Chicago. But does that include an end to this policy of overbooking flights as a matter of routine procedure?
Hey there, Rama. It doesn't quite go that far, at least not yet. So far, what we're looking at is changes that include the airline no longer allowing crew members to displace passengers that are already seated on board the plane. Markets open the day reeling from the unexpected Brexit vote and uncertainty over what this could mean for U.S. markets. The visa extension now in effect is a deal between the U.S. and China to improve economic ties. The U.S. hopes the move will bring $85 billion annually to the American economy and support more than 400,000 jobs. China's gold reserve stands at 1.7% of its total foreign exchange reserves. And one research firm says China could buy up more gold to meet the target set by the IMF to qualify the yuan as a reserve currency.
Liling, it was a very volatile and very brutal day for the bulls on Wall Street. What happened?
Absolutely, Michelle. This was a harrowing trading session as a panicked sell-off in early trading drove the Dow Jones Industrial Average down by more than 1,000 points. And the worst-case scenario is, of course, a referendum on a potential exit by Italy. So we're talking about a solid rally on a debut. And here's looking at why this Chinese company is all the rage now. Ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange, 58.com senior executives and lead investors soon took to the trading floor for the excitement of the first trades of the day. Well, Michelle, the story is the company's growth potential. Now, ICANG price is offering at the high end of its target range, $14. It opened on Wednesday at $16.50, closed day one of trading just above $15. And let's just say you're in the market to buy a $10 million luxury condo. Well, you'll be happy to know that Manhattan's real estate, although still pricey, is considered a bargain compared with properties in London, Paris, or Moscow. Back to you.
I'm not in the market. It's a little pricey for me. But Liling, just briefly, certainly there's a competition for bragging rights for these trophy assets. But wealthy Russian investors they're notoriously secretive about their investments, aren't they?
Yes, they are very secretive, and they move in really tight circles. So when it comes to bragging rights, that exist within those circles, but outside of it, they keep their privacy very well guarded. And a lot of these transactions that we're hearing about, they're conducted through limited liability companies or trusts, and through arrangements that make true ownership hard to determine. The fakes displayed on the walls of galleries and auction houses in New York City and London, well, they all had to begin somewhere, which is why our investigation has taken us here to Madeira Beach in Florida, where for 3 decades, one man laid paint to canvas, creating copies that later fetched millions of dollars. We met Ken Perani at his home, where he was painstakingly working on another Buttersworth.
These are examples of James Buttersworth, an artist that I specialized in, and probably the last artist that a forger would want to imitate, because they're very difficult to do. I've painted well over 1,000 paintings over the years. Probably, I would guess, somewhere around 1,500, but I have at least 1,000 that I've kept photographs of. They've all been sold, so they're all hanging somewhere. And every so often, one will turn up in a magazine or a catalog to this day. And it's amusing. It's like bumping into an old friend.